Hello, this is your extremely in-depth weather forecast for June 2nd, 2025. In this video, I am going to be breaking down all of the extremely active weather stuff that we have going on as we head into June, such as severe weather over the next week, especially on Tuesday and Thursday, and also a potential tropical threat that we will have to look at as we head into the middle of the month. So let's get moving right into this because I have a lot to talk about today. First of all, to talk about the weather over the next day or two, we definitely have storms that are going to be happening later today. And we have this small kink in our jet stream over here that is going to produce some significant storms over here in the northern plains, southern Minnesota over here into South Dakota, Iowa, and Nebraska, and some small storms over here into Kansas and Oklahoma. Dakota, quit! And that is going to end as we head into the early morning tomorrow morning. And then we are going to have a more widespread severe weather outbreak tomorrow, especially peaking around 7 to 11 p.m. tomorrow night. From this, it seems like it's going to be mostly a linear event and less of a tornado event, but we will definitely have a tornado threat with that. And one more model that we really look at here is the HRRR model, or the HRR, or the HRRR, as some may call it. This is going to be this shows the storms moving into Nebraska and Kansas later today, and actually being more of a wet kind of a situation and less of a stormy situation, not allowing these storms to move as far north. And it still shows a very widespread outbreak for tomorrow into Wednesday, and it also shows mostly a wind event with that one there. Now, looking further forward to later this week, we are going to continue to have severe weather as we head into Thursday back over here in the plains, and we also have a very interesting area of low pressure that could be meandering up the east coast as well. But our main focus is going to be this area of severe weather on Thursday and Friday. And as we head into the weekend, it is going to then transition to more of just a wind event kind of a system, producing potentially some longer track wind systems. And if they do get long enough, they can be called a derecho. But after that, we're going to have a small break before we have our next severe weather situation. But again, that is going to stay kind of neutral. And I will talk about this tropical situation later, but it seems like as we head into later, we are going to seem to have a quieter, warmer pattern with a high pressure that might move in the middle of June. Now, in the last little bit, we've been really warm over here in the west and really cool over here in the east, as you can tell with these temperature anomalies. And that is going to quickly move out, and we're going to get some cooler air over here in the plains where it has been quite warm over the last couple of days. And this cool air is going to drive our severe weather situation here and create quite a line of some extremely cool air and some extremely warm air. And those two are going to continue to battle out through the middle of June. And likely we are going to have yet another cold dip as we head into the middle of June. But like I was saying, with this particular GFS run, we are seeing a warmer pattern, except if that tropical system would form, it would be below average here. But again, that is extremely low. I'll get into detail more about that in a little bit. Now, here are our temperatures over the next little bit. We are having we're actually having way below average temperatures over here in the east. We are 39 over here in Pennsylvania on June 2nd, the morning here. That is well below our average. We're usually in the 50s for our cools. And we will get into the 50s as we continue, and maybe even the 60s. And this heat is going to start moving east, but that again is going to be producing some severe weather, and that is going to start to be pushed out as well as we have some cooler air moving in here. And it seems like we're going to be kind of in a medium kind of a June. We're not really super hot or super cold. But looking further out, we are seeing a potential heat wave as we head into June. But of course, this is just one run. But if we do look at our other run, we do see some warmer temperatures right here in the southwest, still hinting at some sort of high pressure blocking system. Now, here is a completely different model set. This is our European model, and again, our storms over the next week are going to move east, as we've talked about. And again, the Euro is showing this troublemaker system on the east coast, with mostly just some minor flooding there. And we are going to continue to have some smaller events as well. But again, it seems like we're going to move further north with our severe weather as we head into mid-June, allowing for more warm temperatures to come in. And to prove that, here is our temperature anomaly here. And again, you can see this cooler air is definitely clashing with the warmer air. And our above average air is going to start to settle in into much of the upper Midwest and eastern areas, northeastern areas, to potentially cause a heat wave. But again, that is too far out, and things could very well change. And here are the temperatures with the Euro. We could be up to 94 degrees today in Iowa, according to this model. But again, it seems to be kind of above the rest of the areas. So we'll definitely see if things change there. But again, you can see the heat really starts to move in as we head into mid-month and really start our summer heat. Now, as we do head into summer, our CAPE here, which is like our convective, I believe it stands for Convective Available Potential Energy, and that is going to be all of our storm energy that we have to pump out our storms here. And we're going to need a lot of this in the summer, and boy, do we have a lot of this. But the thing is with this is often we don't have the cooler air really clashing with it as much. Except over the next week, we will have some of that. And as we look even further into the future, after we have multiple days of high CAPE in Oklahoma, as you see here, we are up to 5,000 joules per kilogram, which is really much, which is a lot. But the crazy thing is we're going to see this kind of potential start making its way up here into the northern plains, like Minnesota area, and we're going to potentially have some significant severe weather up there as we head again into mid-June. Now, looking into the future here, we are definitely seeing our severe weather potential ramp up. Today we have a slight risk stretching from Minnesota into Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, as far east as Wyoming, and our marginal risk stretches from Mexico all the way up to Canada today in a couple areas. We also do have a marginal risk over here in Florida. Now, we do have a small tornado risk over here in Nebraska and southeast South Dakota, but this is going to be a very low chance compared to our wind risk and hail risk, which are definitely driving this slight risk for today, and our marginal risk. Now, our day 2 is what is a little more concerning. We have a more significant slight risk slightly further to the east. We have it stretching from Texas, Oklahoma, southeast Kansas into Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin, and our marginal goes up into Michigan yet. And this is going to be mostly, again, driven by wind and hail. Nothing super significant seen for the day 2. This could very well get upgraded because it is a day 2 risk. And then we are going to potentially move into a quieter pattern here as we head into the next little bit. We have a marginal risk over here and a marginal risk over here as we head into the Thursday time frame. Nope, sorry, I meant Wednesday. The Wednesday time frame. Now, actually something interesting here is we do have a day 4 slight risk over here in Oklahoma and Texas, and this is going to be our Thursday. that I think is going to be more significant out here on the plains, and they have already picked up on this. So we're going to definitely watch this one, and I'll talk to you about this specific threat later this week. Now, shifting over to our tropical outlook, this is going to be our first full in-depth deep dive for our tropical time frame here, and it is actually looking quite interesting for early June because the GFS is picking up on some interesting stuff. And also, we will talk about this one later because I think there is a small chance for this one to develop as well. But as you can see here, we stay kind of quiet over the next week, but the GFS actually picks up a area with a Central American gyre kind of a system here, which is just kind of a typical thing that happens in June, and it often forms some of our tropical systems. This actually formed Alberto from last year, so it is got a good potential for something like this to happen, potentially around the Alberto time frame. But again, this is the only model that is showing this, and with this, it is bringing a tropical storm up towards Texas. But if we want to see what some people were freaking about like a day ago, here's our 12Z from 2 days ago. As you can see, we don't really have much, but all of a sudden we have like a tropical storm over here that causes another area to form up right here by Florida. And our 18Z one is probably our craziest run because it literally shows a major landfall to Louisiana in mid-June, which this is not going to happen, but I do find it very interesting. But also, we should look at the GFS because this has been really good at showing potential areas to look at, as we had seen with Alberto for sure. But it also picked up different areas like the secondary area over here that never formed, or the secondary system after Beryl that never formed. Now, here's our second model that we're going to look at. This is our European model, our second out of 4 models that we're going to look at. Now, I'm definitely going to look at our longer range 0Z because the 6C is just not far out enough for me. So the European model is catching on to this small thing right along the coast there, and really, it doesn't ever pick up anything close to over here. But one thing I want to keep an eye on now, and something that has caught my eye the last few days, is this tropical system that could move into the Caribbean as we head into the same time frame that the GFS is showing this other system forming. And I think that actually has a greater potential. Now, this is actually one of my favorite models, probably just behind a GFS or around a GFS. I find this to be the most accurate model when it comes to forecasting trends and stuff like that. And again, it is showing this small system off the coast of the East Coast that I'm giving a 10% chance to form here. And again, it is picking up on this tropical wave moving in to the Caribbean. And is it picking up on this other system that the GFS is? Not really. Now, here's our last model, and I did want to show this model just because it does show something interesting with the system that most other models are showing along the East Coast. It is actually showing the system kind of spinning up. I would take this with a grain of salt, but it shows it kind of spinning up kind of offshore and gets taken up by a front and away. I think this is going to be our first kind of a threat for anything to develop, even before our moisture over here that the GFS is showing, but I really don't think that that's going to form because all the other models aren't showing anything. Now, even though I do have a 10% risk on that system, the National Hurricane Center does not have anything tracking with it. So just go with whatever they say. But I would definitely not be surprised if they end up putting a 10% risk on it at some point. Anyways, that is all I have for you. I will see you later this week to give even more in-depth dive into potential tropical threats and our severe weather across the US. Thank you so much for watching. This is WTHR-X, and I'll see you next time.